I'm Courtney Hansen, and today we're going to be covering how your body stores trauma. So it's no secret that our conscious mind can only remember so much. It has to stay on task for day-to-day things. So our subconscious and our body remembers everything. A lot of times you'll hear that our joints store trauma, and it's actually your psoas muscle. Now this muscle is a muscle that connects your upper to your lower body. And so today we're going to break down how to release trauma at a cellular level in your body and exactly what the psoas muscle does. So let's first talk why people say that trauma is stored in your actual hips. It's because our arms and our shoulders are moving. Now, occasionally you'll hear someone say that trauma is stuck in their shoulders, but our psoas actually connects the upper and lower body. This is only in adults, and here's what's fascinating. Animals and children naturally shake. So they're upset or they have a tantrum or they go through a stressful experience and their body shakes out the trauma. Now, this is where it is amazing. Our bodies actually store trauma in the psoas muscle at a cellular level. So instead of it moving out of our body, it is our fight or flight. So we get frozen, and let's say we don't go back to that parasympathetic state of rest and digest, our bodies get trapped. They cannot process this trauma that went through, so our psoas muscle stores it for us to keep us safe. Our psoas is the core muscle connecting the lumbar vertebrae to the femur. The psoas major is the biggest, strongest muscle in our hip flexors, which are altogether responsible for controlling the thighs, torso, and their movement together. Now, being that this muscle is found at the very core of our body, it is the single most affected by our fight or flight response. Given what we know about emotional motor functions, which is that feelings unexpressed get stuck where they begin to initiate. Your psoas is the single muscle used for storing the deepest and most pervasive trauma you've experienced. So when we go into fight or flight and our parasympathetic nerve cannot go back to our rest and digest, we go into freeze. And this is where our trauma gets trapped at a cellular level. Now, the issue is when we are dealing with chronic stress or trauma, that our psoas is often in a constant state of flexion or activation. When we have experienced chronic stress or trauma, our nervous system is hyper vigilant. Our brain and our muscles are in a constant state of fight or flight and ready mode, and even activation in order to help us survive. But we're not trying to survive, right? It's just our body's response. Our nervous system does not have a rational way of thinking. It does not know how to differentiate. Now, our nervous systems have three ways to think: parasympathetic, sympathetic, or freeze. Parasympathetic is rest and digest. Sympathetic is fight or flight, and freeze is we don't know what to do. What's even crazier is this is all decided at an unconscious level in a fraction of a second. Now, when we get in freeze, this is where the trauma is stored in this muscle. Now let's get on our mats together, and I'm going to teach you guys some actual releases that you can do in yoga poses and incorporate into your daily routine to release trauma at a cellular level. All you'll need for these exercises is your mat, a couple blocks, and your body. Let's head to the mat. For our first exercise, we have a block. Place it underneath your hips. Lift up your hips into bridge, scooch back on your tailbone, and slowly lower down. Rest here. In supported bridge, we are allowing this muscle to open up and stretch. This is going to be held for 3 to 5 minutes. Take this time and focus on your breath. The next pose is triangle. Point your right foot towards the short end of your mat. Extend your arms. Lean forward, bend down, and hook your toe. Open up your arms to the ceiling. Your chest is spiraling to the thigh. You should really feel this on your inner thigh. If this is too intense, always an option to come right here to your calf. If we stabilize the femur, the upper half of the triangle has the potential to pull the spine down and forward as it attaches to the last thoracic vertebrae. The lower half of the psoas pulls mostly on the lumbars and therefore pulls them down and forward, which would make the pelvis tip forward and down. Place your feet hips width apart, hinge from your hips, lower down, and just let everything hang.
Your weight should be in the front of your toes. You could even lift your heels off the floor to test this.
As this picture shows, we are taking pressure off of this muscle and allowing it to stretch in a way that we do not normally move. Our next pose is pigeon, so take your right leg and place your foot on the inside of your left thigh. Option to just stay right here. If you feel like you can need a little bit more, lower down to your forearms and even your forehead. Here is another option for your leg if you feel that this is just not opening enough or you have a little more flexibility. Feel free to open your leg to this angle. This is a great example of how we are moving and opening this area. This is one of my personal favorite hip openers. For this pose, you can use a roller or you can use a rolled up mat. This pose encourages relaxation of the psoas itself as well as to induce the overall state of deep stillness and calm. In this pose, we are actually stabilizing our pelvis. Extending the leg will lengthen the psoas muscle itself. I hope that these stretches are so beneficial to you and help you in releasing stored emotions that are trapped inside of your body. The psoas muscle is absolutely amazing to learn about. There are a ton of resources online and a ton of different stretches that you can do to release this area. I encourage you to hold each pose that we did today for 3 to 5 minutes to ensure that you are allowing that area the maximum potential to actually release. If we're just holding something for 20-30 seconds, it's not going to have the time to do the opening that it needs to do. So we're going more into a gravity yoga pose with the timing of the 3 to 5 minutes. If you guys have any questions, I am more than happy to answer them. And again, thank you for watching this, and I hope it helped.